When you don't get sunlight, your body does not immediately send an alarm telling you that something is wrong, because the effects usually begin slowly and quietly, making them easy to ignore. At first, you may simply think you are feeling more tired than usual, or assume that your mood has changed because of stress or lack of motivation. But sunlight plays a much larger role in the human body than most people realize, because for thousands of years, the human body evolved around natural cycles of daylight and darkness, and your brain still depends heavily on these signals to regulate important functions every single day. One of the first things affected when you stop getting enough sunlight is your internal body clock, often called your circadian rhythm, which acts like a natural timer controlling sleep, energy, alertness, hormone release, body temperature, and many other systems throughout the day. Normally, when sunlight enters your eyes, special cells send signals directly to your brain, telling it that it is daytime, and these signals help regulate hormones that determine whether you feel awake or tired. But when you suddenly stop receiving enough sunlight, these signals become weaker, and your body begins losing its sense of timing. Your brain may become confused about when it should feel alert and when it should prepare for rest, and because of this, your energy levels can start becoming unpredictable. You might feel sleepy during the day, but strangely find it difficult to sleep properly at night. And even after getting enough hours of sleep, you may still wake up feeling exhausted, as if your body never fully recovered during the night. Because sleep quality does not only depend on duration, but also on how well your body synchronizes with its natural rhythm. Another thing that begins changing is your mood, because sunlight influences chemicals inside the brain that affect emotional balance. One of these chemicals is serotonin, which is associated with feelings of well-being, calmness, and emotional stability. And lower exposure to sunlight may reduce serotonin activity, causing subtle emotional changes. At first, you may notice that you feel less motivated, less interested in things that usually excite you, or more mentally drained during everyday activities. And because these changes often happen gradually, many people never connect them to lack of sunlight. They may think they are simply feeling lazy, tired, or unmotivated, without realizing that the environment around them is influencing their brain and body in significant ways. Your concentration can also begin to change, because when energy levels become less stable, your ability to maintain focus and attention often decreases. You may find yourself getting distracted more easily, losing your train of thought, or feeling mentally slower during tasks that normally feel easy. And while these changes might initially seem small, they represent the beginning of a much larger process happening inside the body, because sunlight affects much more than mood and sleep. And as time passes, deeper changes begin developing beneath the surface, even before you fully realize anything unusual is happening. As days and weeks continue without enough sunlight, the effects on your body become more noticeable, because your body starts adjusting to an environment that lacks one of the most important natural signals it depends on. And one of the biggest changes involves vitamin D, because unlike many vitamins that mainly come from food, vitamin D is produced when your skin is exposed to sunlight. And this vitamin plays an important role in many systems throughout the body, including bone health, muscle function, immune activity, and even aspects of brain function. When sunlight exposure becomes too limited, vitamin D levels can gradually begin dropping. And because this process happens slowly, many people do not immediately recognize what is happening. They may simply feel more tired, weaker, or less energetic, without understanding the underlying reason. As vitamin D levels continue decreasing, some people may begin experiencing muscle weakness, body aches, or a feeling of heaviness throughout the body, because muscles and bones rely on proper nutrient balance to function effectively. And without enough vitamin D, your body can struggle to maintain that balance. Your immune system may also begin changing, because sunlight and vitamin D are linked to how the body regulates certain immune responses. And when these systems become less efficient, you may feel more vulnerable to illness, or notice that recovery takes longer than usual. Your physical energy may continue declining, because your body is no longer operating under the same balanced conditions it normally expects. And everyday tasks that once felt easy can begin requiring more effort than before. Another important effect appears in mental performance, because your brain is highly sensitive to disruptions in sleep, hormones, and biological rhythms. And as these disruptions continue, concentration, memory, and cognitive performance may become increasingly affected. You may notice difficulty remembering small details, slower thinking, or feeling mentally foggy throughout the day. And this experience is often described as brain fog, because thoughts can feel less sharp, and mental effort may suddenly feel heavier than before. And because many people today spend long hours indoors, whether at work, school, or home, they may gradually experience some of these effects without connecting them to reduced sunlight exposure at all. They may assume that stress, workload, or lack of motivation is responsible, without realizing that the body is responding to a missing environmental factor it has relied on for most of human history. And beyond these physical and mental effects, your emotional state can continue shifting because prolonged low sunlight exposure has been associated with stronger mood changes in some individuals. You may begin noticing lower motivation, increased feelings of sadness, reduced interest in activities, and a stronger desire to remain inactive. And although not everyone experiences these changes in the same way, they demonstrate how deeply connected the human body remains to natural light. Even in a world filled with artificial lighting, screens, and modern technology, your brain still responds to sunlight in ways that have remained largely unchanged for thousands of years. As long periods pass without enough sunlight, the deeper effects may become more noticeable and begin influencing multiple parts of your life because the changes are no longer limited to isolated symptoms, but instead start affecting the way your body and mind function as a whole. One of the strongest long-term effects can involve sleep, because when your internal clock remains disrupted for extended periods, your sleep cycle may gradually lose consistency, making it harder to fall asleep at the right time, stay asleep throughout the night, or wake up feeling refreshed. And because sleep affects nearly every process inside the body, these disruptions can spread into many other areas, including energy, emotional balance, concentration, and overall well-being. Over time, your body may begin feeling less physically active, because lower energy, combined with reduced motivation, often leads people to move less, exercise less, and spend more time inactive. And this can create a cycle where lower activity further contributes to fatigue, making it harder to break out of the pattern. Your emotional state may continue changing, because your brain depends on balanced chemical activity for stable mood. And when environmental signals like sunlight remain limited, emotional regulation can become less effective, causing some people to feel more disconnected, less motivated, or emotionally flat compared to their normal state. You may notice that activities which once felt enjoyable become less exciting, and social interactions may require more effort than before. Your productivity can also begin changing, because concentration and mental sharpness are closely linked to sleep quality, energy levels, and emotional state. And when several of these systems are affected at the same time, completing tasks, learning new information, and maintaining attention can become more difficult. And eventually, you may begin realizing something important, which is that sunlight was never simply about brightness or warmth, but instead acts as a biological signal, influencing many systems that quietly support normal functioning every single day. Because your body evolved under regular exposure to natural daylight, and despite modern lifestyles filled with indoor environments, artificial lighting, and digital screens, your brain still expects these signals and continues relying on them in ways that many people rarely think about. And while the body can adapt to reduce sunlight for certain periods, prolonged absence may gradually push many systems away from their most efficient state. And this reveals how closely connected human health remains to the natural world, because even something as ordinary as stepping outside and receiving sunlight can influence sleep, energy, mood, focus, immune activity, and overall well-being in ways that extend far beyond what most people imagine. And understanding this relationship makes it easier to appreciate that some of the most powerful influences on human health are not always complicated technologies, medicines, or treatments, but sometimes simple elements that have been present around us from the beginning. And among those elements, sunlight remains one of the most important signals your body continues depending on every day.